Hello everyone. I think this is possibly the first book I'm ever reviewing again because I've reread it. It's also one of the only books in the last few years which I've actually reread. A lot of others I've started to reread but not completed rereading because one reading seemed like enough. With this book, which is How to Think Like a Philosopher by Julian Baggini, one reading is definitely not enough. In fact, I consider this now a a guide um, for not just how to think like a philosopher, because that sounds maybe a bit highbrow, a bit, why bother? Um, but how to think clearly, how to think more effectively. Because if you can think better, you will live better. That's probably the title of a book somewhere, but I really do think that's true. I picked up a lot more from this book than the last time I read it, and hopefully the review will be clearer this time because I think last time there was so much information going in. Um, So I'll start with how the book ends, which is you should not jump to conclusions. You should crawl on your hands and knees to conclusions. So in a world where everybody wants everything fast, think slow. It's something like that, but it really made sense to me. In thinking, there are no shortcuts, and thinking is how you process the world, how you learn, how you solidify your relationships and everything else. So it's worth doing as well as you can because it is really everything. Imagine if you couldn't think, if you were just, a robot. Life's not worth living. You don't have any freedom. Of course, this addresses the question of free will, and it addresses lots of things. One of the reasons I think I like Julian Baggini so much, the author of How to Think Like a Philosopher, one of the reasons I think I like him so much is because he's got perspicuity, which is the ability to clearly express ideas, clearly communicate. And one of the things he writes in this book is that philosophy is often actually very simple, but the language used to describe it is complex and off-putting. So people think, oh God, philosophy, because there's too much jargon, there's too much nonsense. And a lot of the questions it asks are very simple if you put them in simple language. The reason there's a lot of complex language is often words have to be invented to describe things that haven't been described before. Nobody's ever thought to ask that question. So hang on, what are we actually questioning here? I don't know. Nobody's ever asked it. Let's make up a word, and they don't pick a simple word. They'll pick a word based on Latin or something. So it all seems just ridiculously complex. Doesn't have to be. So this is a guide to better thinking. At the end, he deconstructs it, and he deconstructs it down to AC/DC, which is attend, which is the Australian rock band, of course, which is attend, clarify, deconstruct, connect. So the most important thing when you're doing anything really, whether it's frying an egg or learning something or having a conversation, the most important thing is to attend. Pay attention. If you don't pay attention, you're going to burn the egg, you're going to spoil the pan, and some poor soul's going to have to scrub it clean. Attend to what people are saying, whether it's news readers, whether it's people, whether it's anything. Even if you're just playing with your child or spending time with your friend, attend to it fully. It will be more enjoyable to start with, more engaging. You'll be more engaged in life rather than just watching it and wonder what happened when you're old. I don't know where that came from. Second one, deconstruct. So what are these people exactly saying? What do you mean by this? Is that obviously an aporia, something where they've given you a bunch of arguments, each individual idea makes sense, but they conflict each other, so there's an internal contradiction? Can you see straight through what they're saying, or is there something more to it? AC, clarify. That bit was clarify. What exactly are you talking about? What exactly does this mean? Hang on, I don't understand that bit. Then deconstruct. Hang on, if that's what you're really saying, that's bullshit, because you don't have to be confrontational. This is just to give you an idea. And then connect. Read widely, because you'll have more ideas that connect with what you've already learned, and it just makes life richer. You learn faster, you know more, you have more fun. Speak to other people about your ideas, because that's how you remember and you learn. That's one of the reasons I started doing these book reviews, by the way, so I could talk to people about books, because there's so much in books. But if you just read them, I read it and woohoo, you forget everything. So that's one of the reasons I do this. one of the other things he talks about in here, which I thought was brilliant, is don't become an acolyte. And this was a problem that happened in Cambridge when Wittgenstein was there. Everybody was, they weren't there to learn his ideas and maybe, even critique and connect his ideas to something. They were essentially there to worship him, which is what he wanted, because if they didn't worship him, and lots of other philosophers and people in other fields have become like this, either you agree with me or I'm giving you a shitty mark on your essay, right? What else is there? Ad hominem arguments, which is a very popular one. You've probably heard it before. It's when you don't attack the argument, you attack the person making the argument to undermine the argument. So this is like, whatever, I'm just going to pick something topical now. Whatever happens in Israel, however many Gazans or hospitals or schools or whatever are murdered, then, the argument there is that you're murdering civilians. Pretty much the whole world can see and agrees now that they're conducting a genocide, like was done to the Rohingya in Burma or was done to the Jews by Nazi Germany. But their argument is, no, don't worry about the facts. Worry about the fact that they're Hamas, ad hominem. Attack the person. Hamas are the most despicable, baby eating, baby roasting, mass raping everything in the world, even though there's no evidence for any of this. Off we go again. Getting political. Look, I reread this book. It's better than it was last time. Highly recommended, brilliantly written, full of great information. I'm going to read it probably again next year. I might make a habit of that, reading it once a year. I'm going to give it 10 out of 10 again. So this book has got 10 out of 10 twice. And all the other stuff I read by Julian McGinney, maybe I'll read some of that again, is really, really good. Hope you enjoyed that.